So I'm here today on this inaugural issue of, or episode of Meet the Producers. And today we're going to profile a local film project called the Goblin Song, which is being produced, directed, written by some local Davis residents, one of whom is Nora Unkel, and she was featured in the paper on Wednesday in the Davis Enterprise. And I'm here with Bonnie Wolstoncraft. Is that?
Yes.
I've got that correct? Okay. And Bonnie is serving as the local volunteer, coordinator, producer for all the costuming and the volunteers and the food. And we'll discuss today the film.
I'm Nora Unkel, and I am the writer, director, and producer of the Goblin Song.
With sunken eyes and faded mouth, you dream of melons. As travelers see false waves in desert drought.
It's about 80% of the movie is sung, and then once the story gets going, the music is nonstop. Even if they're not singing, there's still going to be a really intense musical sounding underscore.
Beside the brook, along the glen, I hear the tramp of goblin men.
The thing that really inspires me more than anything else is, with this project in particular, it presents me with challenges that I haven't ever come across before.
What attracts me to a project obviously is the visual style and the locations, and when Nora told me that we were shooting in a pear orchard in Northern California, that was definitely an enticing offer. But another part is the script and the story, and definitely the director's passion, and it was so clear that she's been working on this for so long that it was something I wanted to be involved in.
Nora, who's my daughter, is actually a student at New York University in Manhattan, and the film is going to be filmed in Davis over spring break this year. There's a lot of logistical challenges, and I'm doing the West Coast portion of coordinating all kinds of things, both pre-production, leading up to the film, and production from when everybody arrives here in the middle of March.
And there's a group of about 15 students flying out here?
15 plus. There's going to be at
Even
least
more.
22, 23 students that will be flying from New York, and somebody driving up from LA, I believe, and one of the main actors, who also is a Davis native, Cody Craven, is flying himself out from the Bahamas right after he finishes his Disney
Cruise, he's a singer on the cruise ships,
main
right?
stage performer with the Disney cruise ship, so this is going to be his next gig.
I have an interview with Nora, which will be playing here on the show. I talked with her via Skype, and she's going to tell us all about the creative aspects and the decisions, how she decided to write the film, and so on.
The story of the Goblin Song is, it's a dark fairy tale musical, and it is set in the Victorian era, and it's about two sisters who, one day when they're walking through their family orchard, they come across these goblin men who are more like male versions of sirens, who try to entice the girls into giving up everything that they care about. And one sister succumbs to the temptation, and the other one has to save her.
I understand this is based on you said a poem, right?
It is. The Goblin Song is based off of a 19th century poem called Goblin Market by Christina Rossetti. And it takes a lot of the same themes and ideas, and I just made it more cinematic.
So you adapted and this was something you just came across, or was it something you'd always wanted to turn into a film, or you looked for this material?
Yeah, originally I was planning on coming out to California to shoot a Western version of Little Red Riding Hood.
Okay.
And when that proved to be exceedingly complicated, we were looking at other fairy tales, and a good friend showed me Goblin Market, and I read it and instantly fell in love with it and was like, I have to make this. So that was like 3 years ago.
Did you run into any challenges in the script writing process, and because you were dealing with something that has a sort of a different traditional structure than the way people usually do things?
The original poem has a lot of really cool undertones to it, and a lot of things that aren't not overtly said, but are kind of hinted at. And I think there's kind of a lot of religious themes, a lot of gender equality themes, like things like that, which it was a very big challenge, but I decided to try to bring more to the forefront in the film version. So that was definitely a challenge, but I'm very happy with where it's ended up.
And so you're doing it as a musical. How did you make that decision? Was it the rhyming of the poetry or just the personal?
Yeah, the original poem is just so lyrical in the way that it's written. It's written in a sing-song sort of way. And just when I read it, I heard music. So I was like, this obviously has to be a musical. And then also, my team and we have done a lot of musicals together in the past, and it's just kind of a thing that we really enjoy doing. So I was like, that'd be fun.
Okay. And I understand there's all kinds of music in this. Did you compose that are like specific songs, like a classical musical, or is it just them sort of singing the lyrics? And I don't know much about music, so the structure and things I don't know.
It's not your typical musical with the like song break, applause, dialogue song again. It's more of an operetta, sort of the way Les Mis is, in that it, parts are sort of spoken, then kind of sung, and then back to spoken, and then here's a full song, but it's all very woven together. So we composed all of the music that is being sung, and then after we shoot, we're going to orchestrate a bunch of music between those songs to just kind of give a constant musical feel.
Okay, and I understand you have a very musical background from here in Davis.
Yes.
Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. I grew up with Davis Musical Theater Company. Since before I can remember, I was on the stage doing musical theater. Love it more than words can say. And then I continued on to continue doing musicals through junior high and high school. And then I joined the advanced treble choir with Karen Gardius for 2 years, and they were the best 2 years of choir that I can possibly hope for. And then I did madrigals, the Davis High School madrigals for my senior year, which was also just phenomenal.
With such a musical background, how is it you wound up with the film side of things and being at NYU the Tisch School of the Arts? And when people say NYU Film School, that's what they mean, right? It's the same thing, right? Okay.
Yes.
So how did you wind up then making that transition to film?
Yeah, it was bizarre because I always thought I wanted to go into musical theater. And eventually I just, I realized that as much as I loved it, I didn't have necessarily the full package, the full talent that was required for it to really make a career out of it.
Right.
And I started writing a lot and started writing these screenplays that I didn't realize they were screenplays at the time, but they became screenplays.
That's a good thing. You don't get locked up in your head about it.
Yeah, no, exactly. It was so much fun. And then what I realized in the end was just like all of these different things that I loved, which was writing and directing and music and theater and everything. I was able to combine all of them by making movies. And so by being behind the camera and directing, I got to do everything that I love doing, but all in one place.
That's good. And so now, coming back to the madrigals and the treble choir, they're coming out to record music, correct, for your, for your movie?
Yeah. So Karen Gardius is one of the best people in the world. She, when I started thinking of this as a musical, my mom came up with the idea. She was like, I wonder if any of the choirs would be have any interest in doing some of the like choral music throughout the film. And so I contacted Miss Gardius, and it turns out that they were coming out for their trip this year to New York anyways. And so I was like, you interested? And of course she was super interested, and she was super excited and super enthusiastic about it. And so, we've been planning this now for, I think, about 2 years with her.
Oh, wow. So
yeah.
How long is the planning then for this the project? I mean, when did you start it all?
Oh. I wrote the first draft 3 years ago, in March. Yeah, so, which was crazy. So this project has been in the works for a while now. It's kind of been an all-consuming thing.
I guess I'll ask. I have one more question about the music, and again, I really don't know anything about music. So for the people who do know about music, is there? I guess when I was asking about the style earlier, I mean, is there something about the structure that they would recognize, like?
Yeah, it's people who would know music, I guess there's a lot of recitatives going throughout that kind of go into more of the song structure, but then kind of our sung lyrics or like sung dialogue, and it's the tone of the music. It's kind of a mixture of like Sweeney Todd meets the musical Spring Awakening, and it kind of has the same sort of feel in the music as Les Mis, just in the way the music comes in and out of the story.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's like the best way of describing it. It's also just that has been one of the other challenges, has been explaining the musical aspect of it, because I've never seen a movie musical done this way before.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's I think the best thing that explains the music is our teaser trailer.
But I know now I shall ignore my fate. Break my will and save your life, my sister.
What was the one of the drives to bring it back to Davis?
Yeah,
A lot of people want to get away sometimes,
I know. Yeah, it basically, there's just this beauty to Davis and the surrounding areas, Yolo County, that are just it's a very unique feel, a very unique beauty that you can't really find anywhere else. And I thought it would be the perfect setting for a fairy tale, because it's not your typical just, oh, here's a forest, but it has some darker edges to it. It has a lot of, I don't know, just a lot of unique views. And then beyond that, there's just the incredible support system that I have in Davis is just unparalleled. Everybody is just so excited and eager to help. And whereas you compare that to New York, and you go to anybody and be like, hey, can I shoot in your house? And they're like, oh my God, another film shoot? They're like, okay, $3,000 for the day. Where it's Davis, they're like, a film shoot? Yes, please, let's do this, and it becomes much more fun and not as like regimented and cost heavy, it's and cost focused. It's more about just like, let's make a fun project all together.
You've raised personally already, you've saved, just you yourself worked 3 jobs and went to school full time. How on earth did you manage that?
Yeah, great question. Sleep really wasn't involved. Yeah, no, it was exhausting, but it was a blast. I worked 3 jobs, sometimes 4, for the last 3 years to make this film possible, and I raised about $11,000 myself. Yeah, and so I think I've gotten a really great chunk of this film budget here, which is great, and we have more to go, but I'm sure it's gonna happen, and we'll get there. The film's gonna happen somehow, some way.
But films are expensive and complicated, and the truth is, people should donate to this project. I'll just say that outright, because you do still need some more money for all the different expenses. There are things that a lot of people have been donating, right? Food and props and the labor on the costumes and so forth. But there are expenses that need to be met, like transportation and gas and things that
exactly
have to be paid for. So the project can use people's support. So
exactly. I mean, we've basically made it so we've tried to get as much that that can be just physically donated as possible. It's, things that are lying around in people's garages, so that we don't have to spend that money. And that's really, really worked out, and that wouldn't be able to happen if we weren't shooting in Davis, because my parents are basically just collecting what we call goblinery at our house. And, I wouldn't be able to do that in New York. I couldn't ask people to be like, hey, do you have extra candles? Can you bring them by? But yeah, as you said, there are fundamental costs such as plane tickets and equipment that we have to rent that we've brought it down as far as it can possibly go, but it's money that we have to pay.
So including financial donations through Indiegogo and through From the Heart, are there any additional ways that people can still help out on this project? Things that you need?
Yeah. My mother is currently working out a food schedule because we're going to be having 25 and sometimes close to like 40 or 50 people that we have to feed basically 3 meals to for 10 days. And that adds up. So if people like cooking, are used to the mom casseroles, like I like to call them, food is always just a wonderful help, and kind of gets you involved with the project, and get to see how things are going. And I guess just spreading the word in general and talking about it, and putting aside donations, just having the name of the film out there for people to see, and is so helpful because word of mouth just really gets you a lot of places, and gets people excited to see the film and excited to see where it goes. So yeah, worst comes worst, just talk about it, I guess.
Okay, that's good. So let's start with...
We had to find locations for where is this film actually going to be shot and what we were going to do. Nora had the script in mind and was very fortunate to work closely with Dave and Molly Olson, who she's known through Davis Musical Theater. Nora had done years and years, numerous performances with the MTC. Dave and Molly own a large orchard, family farm orchard down in the Delta. Nora was thrilled for the opportunity to film in the orchard down there, and it's going to be spring, so we're looking at lots of blossoms. It should be wonderful in the orchard itself, and then the area that we're calling the Goblin's Lair, which is a thicket right adjacent to the river. So she got those 2 locations and a Victorian across the street for exteriors, and then she needed an interiors Victorian for interior shots, and I was able to work with some great folks and came up with a lovely home in Woodland that we're going to use for interior Victorian with authentic restored Victorian furniture and a wonderful woman.
So it's all furnished and everything inside already?
Betty Bigelow actually lives there and is been very gracious and is thrilled to have students come and film. Her daughter had been a filmmaker, not a filmmaker, pardon me, a playwright and very involved with theater, and tragically passed away last March. And when I contacted Betty out of the clear blue sky, Betty thought about it for a while and then told me that she says, my daughter would want me to do this. So it's a wonderful thing for all of us.
That's fantastic. So you're also handling the costumes here locally, correct?
Right. Well, the costumes are a bi-coastal production. The costumes were designed by Nora's talented production team back in New York. And then I went back to New York in October, and we purchased all the fabric at Mood, which is, for those of you who are familiar with Project Runway or fabric store, it was fascinating. You go in there, there are rows and rows and rows of long, huge bolts of fabric. We bought all the fabric there. I brought it back here to California, and some wonderful, the Sewing Circle ladies, a lot of women I've worked with through Davis Musical Theater Company, which always involves a lot of costumes. I have about 6, 7, 8 different women who have sewn different portions of different ones of the costumes. So we divided those up, and I had some great support. Then still, a few are still being finished, and even Nora's aunt in Virginia, we sent one back to her, and they're being finalized.
And so how did you handle the fitting of the costumes? I understand you had a
Well,
unique method.
that was yes, it was unique. The girls, first of all, are wearing corsets, which was an experience in and of itself, buying corsets in New York. So we had measurements, but you still don't quite know. My talented late friends, made muslins, which are sort of basically mock-ups. We mailed them back to New York. The girls tried them on. They got on Skype in New York. We had Skype in California. Nora's trying things on in New York. We're watching it here, saying, pin there, let's do that. So it was
Sounds kind
fittings
of
via
complicated.
Skype.
Today also we have, you have some of the costumes
Well, I wanted
here.
to,
All right.
this one is, if you will, hot off the press.
All right.
And this is one
And
of
these are Victorian era to match the setting?
yes, they're Victorian era, and they're made from a reproduction actual Victorian costume.
Okay.
This is not, it's just, not sure if you can see the coral and white skirt, and we're waiting to do the final fitting for the waist for when they
Did
come.
they wear bustles in this time period? Or?
Not, I think some did, but this is not going to be a bustle production.
Okay.
We will be using the crinolines, which are the long slips with the stiffeners. And
they kind of push it
right,
out a little bit?
petticoats, if you will.
Okay.
Davis Musical Theater Company has been great and is loaning us all kinds of crinolines for the girls to have as part of the Victorian long skirt costume. So
there's a tremendous amount of local input into this
it's
project.
been absolutely wonderful, the support we've gotten and the people who we've worked with through the years with various theater groups in town. That's been very supportive.
Go Davis.
Yeah.
We also have here, you brought in some of the prop baskets that are going to be featured in the film. And
right.
I even have a clip here behind the scenes how they were put together.
Oh, is he filming?
Are you filming?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Oh. He said that you're probably not going to use a lot of the audio, so I picture us to a cheesy song like, ha 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 ha.
The house of boughs of hope, la 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 la. Is the season to be jolly, la 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 la.
So we're making some baskets for Nora's uncle's thesis film. It's going well. The goblins, I think, are going to emerge from the forest, holding the baskets with fruit. I think it represents temptation is going to be really beautiful, and Nora basically described it when she was telling us what to do. It was make it look like the forest threw up. So that's really our goal.
If you want to tell us a little about
Well, the
these.
Goblin Song is derived from the Christina Rossetti poem Goblin Market, where the goblins, who are sensual, alluring, very mythological type of men, don't think Hobbit, don't think Harry Potter.
They're not monstrous.
No, they're sensual, seductive. The Goblin Market, they are selling fresh fruit and fresh as part of the allure for the girls. And for each goblin, they have a basket of fresh fruit. So we got a lot of basket donations, and then a couple of Nora's good friends have spent all kinds of time out on our deck gluing baskets, putting moss on them, additional sticks, whatever. The idea of trying to make them look as sort of from the forest, much more. Think nature goth.
Nature goth.
And so each goblin of our, we're hoping to have 11 goblins, will be having their own baskets with the fruit. So there's been a lot of support in terms of those props. There also has been, for the goblin lair I mentioned, there's going to need a lot of additional props in there, or just set decoration.
Set dressing and so forth.
So we've gotten a lot of yard trimmings from all kinds of neighbors. We have grapevine cuttings, we have gnarled roots, we have pussy willows coming that people have been trimming. Once again, a tremendous amount of neighborhood support and local folks that have brought all kinds of natural materials that are going to be used when it's actually time to dress that set of the Goblin lair with a big table. We've also had a lot of folks donate candles. There'll be a lot of night shoots. It'll be lit with candles.
So it's going to be all sorts of times of the day. And
the girls, I think, initially will meet the goblins or see the goblin in the orchard in bloom, and then as it becomes a sort of darker, they actually have night shoots in the Goblin lair, and so there will be a lot of night shoots, which means a tremendous number of candles, and we've gotten a number of candles donated from all kinds of people, and a lot of mason glass jars for candle holders. The house is full of those props. Once again, I mean, the outpouring of items has been really supportive, and one of my friends is a party light dealer for candles, and she's donating candles, so it's been great.
Okay, that's amazing. It takes a lot to do a film, and especially if you have something that's this creative and it involves the indoors and the outdoors and all these, a period piece always involves costumes, so there's a lot to be done. So it's great that everyone in the local community has been able to support the film. I know she's worked very hard on her end to save money to help pay for these things and to bring the crew from New York to California. So
she's working closely with the Davis High School Madrigals and Karen Gardius and the Davis High School Advanced Treble Choir, who are going to be recording the choral background music for all of the film itself. So that's been another local connection, which has been fabulous.
So let's see, another thing, it sounds like there's going to be a lot of people involved in this, and you've had to look up lodging and providing transportation for all these people. And as well, you said food is a big item. Would you like to talk about that?
These are college students or recent college graduates, and they really like to eat. So, what I've learned of film sets, one of the things you need to do is make sure that the crew remains fed and happy, especially with a lot of outdoor shooting.
That is what you hear is the number one thing on any film set is the food.
So we've got a combination, and we're still working on putting this together right now. A number of friends have said that they'd be happy to bring a casserole, something like that, to bring a meal. We're looking at, on some occasions, we'll be having at least 25, and on sometimes meals even up to 40, depending on if it's a Goblin night and how many additional crew members that we're going to be getting. One of Nora's other very good friends from forever here in Davis is working with a lot of local restaurants and businesses and asking for donations, and she's had some luck so far, and she's really pursuing that, so we're really hopeful that that's going to be able to fill in a lot of additional food. I'm also sort of hoping, because these are New York students, a lot of them are from New York, that we can get sort of a representative California meals, whether or not it's In-N-Out hamburgers, Mexican food, something that
teach them something about our.
Let's show you what we eat here in Davis.
Yeah, there is an emphasis on food and local and freshness here, so.
Exactly, and we're hoping one of the things that they typically want is crafty, which is the snacks that are out, and for that they want fruit, some vegetables, some healthy kinds of
stuff.
So I'm hopeful that we're going to be able to get that type of support also. They may need some additional assistance on some of those crunch nights for makeup or for
makeup and hair. You have a lot of goblins. They need
right, and the idea is that a lot of the goblins will have henna tattoos, that sort of thing. So I have some folks that have said they'd be interested in helping out, and I think any other folks that are interested in that sort of a support for a film would be great to have also.
Okay, and we have the information that you can contact Bonnie through, I'll say it, but we have it here on the screen as well, Goblin Song the Film, that's all one word, goblinsongthefilm@gmail.com. And there also, you can contribute food, as you said, and labor with helping with the crew, and of course, donations towards the campaign, which I've talked about earlier in the show and with Nora.
Absolutely, because that certainly is a major part of the budget for this film is
Right.
Getting certain items can be donated and certain items you simply airfare can't really be donated, and
Right,
and
yeah.
there's equipment rental that also can be it's
That's
very-
right. There's all kinds of equipment on a film set that's needed. So I understand that DaVinci is helping out as well.
Well, DaVinci and Davis High School, one of her, Jerry DeCamp there, who was teaching at both DaVinci and Davis High School and has a film program, has offered in conjunction with some of his film students to let them use some of the dolly track and the dolly, which is going to be a tremendous help. That'll be one item that they won't have to rent or procure. And he has students that are going to be down acting as personal assistants or doing some actual on-set assistance during the shooting itself. So getting a lot of the high school involved, what with the madrigal choir, the advanced treble choir, and now some of the audiovisual video students. So once again, the Davis community has really been incredibly supportive. I am just so impressed and so grateful for the support and the.
So now for you, let's discuss this, because this is your first time producing any kind of a film thing, correct?
Well, yes.
So what's been the most surprising thing for you about the whole process?
I think just the 24-hour nature of it. I'd done a lot of work with Davis Musical Theater Company and with the Young Performers Theater, and there's a real overlap between theater types of things you need to think about and the film. However, with theater, those kids show up, you may have to work on one meal, and then they go home for dinner. I mean, they go home to sleep, and they're not, and their parents drive them around. This is much more encompassing because it's 24 hours. It's at least 8, 9, 10 days, and they will not be having very many cars here because they're flying in from New York. And they're doing long night shoots on a couple of occasions, which that is not what you do with theater. And finalizing it, which is a very different approach from theater, which is, here it is, live audience, we're done.
Right, but this could live on for decades.
It'll be
That's
great.
the thing,
I fully anticipate it's going to be quite a good production. I know a lot of the students that are in it, very talented actors and singers, actresses, and a very cohesive and talented film crew. So I've got high hopes for this showcasing the Yolo County area and these particular students' talent.
Well, I think that kind of wraps it up for now. And if you'd like to make a contribution to the Indiegogo campaign or through From the Heart, we'll have that information for you on the description of the show. And of course, you might be watching this on YouTube because it's going to be there. And is there any particular extra aspect that you'd like to get some assistance with as we run in here to the end?
Well, you mentioned for people being aware of those other Indiegogo and From the Heart. I think at this point we certainly can use additional food donations if people would be so inclined. And I think Nora is on the lookout for a couple of more goblins also, which would be
Goblins.
men
It's your
in
chance to be a
18
seductive goblin.
right, with a sort of fit dancer types in their 20s about is I think the age she's looking for, but that's more her department. What I'm looking for would be additional food or any campaign donation support.
Okay. Thank you very much, Bonnie,
Thank
for
you.
being
This has
here.
been a real pleasure.
It has been for me too, because this is a subject I really like. So, and I think, like I said, I think it's a great project, a unique one, and I'm glad it's here in Davis.
Yeah.
And that's it for today for Meet the Producers. We'll see you next time.